Welcome to the Reality Revolution. I'm your host, Brian Scott. Today we're going to dedicate our episode to how to acquire prosperity consciousness. Imagine what your life would be like if you were truly prosperous. Imagine you had more than enough of everything you need and the means to get everything that you want. Health, happiness, wealth, success. This is all beginning in your imagination. Imagine all these things flowing to you in a steady stream. Sometimes faster, sometimes slower, but never stopping on a continuous basis as long as you live. How would you feel if your life was like that? If you can imagine such a scenario, if you can conjure up such a feeling, however vague it might be, then you have everything that you need to create prosperity in your life. Because the truth is, prosperity is available to anyone who imagines it. No matter what your age, or where you live, or how much education you have, you, the person listening to me right now, I'm talking to you directly. You can become prosperous starting right now. Your prosperity does not depend on economic conditions, your parents. You can become prosperous in good times and bad. It doesn't matter how much money you have now, or how many people you know, or how hard you work. To become prosperous, you don't need investment capital or to know the right people. To become prosperous, you don't have to work hard. In fact, you may not have to work at all. Many people have become prosperous without doing a minute of what is commonly known as work. Does this surprise you? Well, it's just the beginning. Before you finish this episode, you may be even more surprised to learn that prosperity isn't what you think it is. It can't be found where you've been looking, and it is not created in the way that you believe it. Before you finish this episode, you may have to throw away all your old notions about prosperity. That's okay. Because if you're not already prosperous, then your old notions haven't done much for you. On the other hand, if you're already prosperous, this episode will help you make your prosperity permanent, growing exponentially. What if you're not prosperous and you just can't imagine being that way? What if poverty, scarcity, and struggle are so much a part of your life, you can't picture living without them? Listen to this anyway. By the time you're done, that mindset can change. And for your sake, I hope it does, because I want to show you how to acquire a prosperity mindset. Because if you can't imagine what it's like to be prosperous, you'll spend the rest of your life taking orders from someone who can. For most people, the word prosperity has almost the same meaning as the word money. In fact, a desire for more money may be what sparked your interest in this episode. If so, that's fine. It's a good place to start. If prosperity means money, then as Americans, we should be able to measure prosperity merely by the counting of our dollars. I mean, look at the United States. Since World War II, we've made more money than ever. More and more people have more money and they're buying more things. Has that led to prosperity? Why is it that when people win the lottery, that the majority of them will fail? There's an article in the Psychonomy Journal stating that winning the lottery is the worst thing that could ever happen to you. The report provides evidence that a sudden overdose of money can produce a diminished sense of reality. In large enough infusions, instant wealth can cause severe mental impairment and even death. Scientists at the Center for Psychiatric and Economic Fusion in Palo Alto, California, have dubbed this phenomenon post-cash syndrome, or PCS. Individual instances of PCS are frightening. One $2 million winner in Georgia went from being a mild-mannered computer technician to a wild-spending, obnoxious drunk who eventually offed himself by jumping from the top of his house into an empty whale-shaped swimming pool. Obviously, that's an extreme example. There are many more reports of people who spent and borrowed so heavily they had to sign over all the rights to all their future lottery checks just to get relief from the constant badgering by their creditors. For numerous lottery winners, the changes brought about by their sudden wealth led to physical illnesses, divorces, and estrangement from their families. Others, who realized they had no stomach for managing large amounts of money, simply gave it away rather than suffer the anxiety of dealing with it. The most unfortunate phenomenon is that some of the lucky ones allow the wealth to sap their personal drive. They lose their motivation and just drift through life. I strongly believe that my higher self has stopped me from winning lotteries because I'm very good at manifesting, simply because I would lose my motivation. So far, looking at prosperity has yielded us more questions than answers. Why have some people stayed poor even though we are becoming more wealthy as a country? Is there a difference between people who become prosperous and people who don't? An internal difference? Are there ways to measure prosperity other than by counting money and possessions? Can prosperity do more harm than good? Why does it elude some people even after they come into a substantial amount of money? If you are like most people, when someone mentions the word prosperity, you think of money, financial wealth, or material possessions. That's understandable. Even the dictionary casts its definition in those terms. My dictionary says it means successful, flourishing, or thriving condition, especially in financial respects. I suspect people think of prosperity in terms of money for the simple reason that money is measurable. You can count it. There is no faster or more accurate way to identify a successful, flourishing, or thriving condition than by just calculating it in dollars and cents. But does that mean the words prosperity and money are synonymous? We need to look at two types of people, one rich, the other poor. The first type, the rich, includes those who, like lottery winners and inheritors of wealth, because of the speed with which they attained their wealth. The instant rich. Both varieties of instant rich have two things in common. They either possess or have the rights to a great deal of money, and they did little or nothing to earn it. Now, reliable statistics about these people are hard to come by, but we do have plenty of verified reports of how most lottery winners handle their sudden wealth. They take lavish vacations, buy luxury cars, give friends and family gifts of cash, and spend themselves into holes they can never dig out of. As for their heirs of the wealthy, ask any attorney who's handled their money. You'll hear about alcoholism, drug addiction, chronic depression, family strife, all characteristics of people who feel unhappy, unfulfilled, and worthless. I'm not saying the suddenly wealthy are doomed to a life of waste and unhappiness. Some instant rich are able to increase their wealth, benefit society, and build happy, productive, service-oriented lives. For those people, money and prosperity go hand in hand. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about people for whom money means only conflict and pain. Lottery winners who have huge incomes but spend so much they're always broke. Scions who look rich but feel poor because they fear that if the money ever ran out, they wouldn't know how to make more. The second group of people are those we might call the productive poor. We've all met them. The people that live in your neighborhood, that take pride in their property. They get dressed, they groom themselves. They put on their best outfits when they go to church. The neighborhood that they're in has an air of happiness and well-being about it. There's no crime. People are friendly and visit with one another on their front porches. The divorce rate is low. Families stay together. To even the most casual observer, the people in this neighborhood appear prosperous in every way. They eat well, they bought what they needed, they pay cash for their houses, they live free of debt, yet most of them might be factory hands or doing some semi-skilled labor in an auto plant or some small machine shop. Now, are those people more prosperous than the ones that win the lottery. Studying the lifestyles of different people teaches us that the essence of prosperity is not money. If it were, all people with money would be prosperous, and all those without it would not be. The essence of prosperity is abundance. What is abundance? The dictionary says it's an extremely plentiful or over-sufficient quantity or supply. The essence of abundance is creation. Abundance and therefore prosperity doesn't just happen. You can't win it or inherit it. You have to create it. Even the abundance of nature was created, not by man, of course, but it was created. The productive poor in a neighborhood have prosperity because they create it. They made it happen. Their prosperity comes from something they carried around inside themselves, not from the money they carried in their pockets. What is the something that produced their prosperity? True prosperity can't be equated with money. So how do you know if you have it? And if you have it, how do you measure it? To get a true picture of prosperity, you must examine the relationships you have developed with the things you need and want. Some of the things you need, like food or clothing, are easy to account for, but others, like love, satisfying relationships, rewarding work, a sense of security, self-esteem, can't be measured. A calculator will do you no good in figuring, for example, your pride in accomplishment. Yet, if you had no pride in accomplishment, you could hardly call yourself prosperous. As for the things you want, again, some are easily measured, like the number of classic Mustangs in your car collection or the number of vintage wines in your cellar. But suppose one of those things you want is simply to be happy. How do you measure that? To define your own prosperity, you have to face the fact that much of it can't be measured, and indeed doesn't have to be. Henry Ward Beecher wrote, "It is the heart that makes a man rich. He is rich according to what he is, not according to what he has." If you're getting what you need, material, emotionally, and spiritually, you're prosperous, and you know it. You can learn life's most valuable lesson about prosperity without ever going near a bank or brokerage house, without ever earning or investing a penny. Go find a piece of vacant land. It can be as close as your own backyard. If you live in a city, you might have to walk a few blocks to find a suitable plot. Actually, any land will be suitable. Barren, weedy, littered, it doesn't matter. Clean it up, remove the bottles and cans, pull the weeds, dig it out, and throw away the rocks, pieces of wood, and other debris. Now decide what you'd like to see growing there. Let's say you choose something easy like beans. Go to a nursery or garden shop and ask the clerk what you have to do to make beans grow in this dirt. You'll probably be told you have to turn the soil to aerate it, to add soil builder or fertilizer, plant seeds a certain distance apart at a certain time. If you do all these things, you'll be rewarded with one of the most marvelous miracles of nature, an abundant crop of nutritious food, where just a few months earlier a barren weed lot had been. Your little plot of beans will be in successful, flourishing, or thriving condition. It will be prosperous. But where did that prosperity come from? From you? Did you teach the soil how to turn seeds into beans? Of course not. The soil already knew. It had the ability to produce prosperity before you ever came along. All you did was set up the conditions necessary to make the prosperity happen. The something that creates prosperity is in the soil itself. That fertile soil, that is prosperity consciousness. And that is the key in understanding how to acquire it. What makes the lesson of the soil so valuable is that it applies to people too. As human beings, you and me, all of us, are born with prosperity consciousness. As Wayne Dyer says, we already have everything we need to experience a lifetime of prosperity. The ingredients are already a part of us before we even start. Or as he says, truly you are not going to get it at all. You are it already. When you were born, no matter what the circumstances, you had the right to be prosperous. Nowhere was it written that you must be poor or unhappy or deprived of anything you can aspire to. I know there are countries in the world that have laws that aim to limit people's opportunity to become prosperous. But laws can't prevent anyone from leaving such countries if they earnestly want to and finding a place where they can prosper. In fact, the more people's prosperity consciousness is suppressed, the more ardent becomes their desire to escape the suppression and create the life they want. The right to be prosperous is something that you carry with you from the womb, and no one can take it away from you. You had it on the day you were born. You have it this moment today. If you live in a country that gives you the opportunity to develop your prosperity, be grateful. For you, putting the secret to work will be easy every step of the way. Not only do you have the right to prosperity in your life, you have the means to achieve it. You have a brain. Maybe not the smartest or fastest in the world, but if yours works well enough to read and understand, it's more than adequate to help you create your prosperity. Plenty of people have become prosperous with a lot less brain power than you possess right now. You also have health. It may not be perfect, but if your health permits you to employ any amount of sustained physical or mental effort, as you are in listening to this episode, it provides you the means to produce prosperity. If you have a working brain and marginal health, you have the means. On top of that, you were born with ability, the ability to learn, the ability to communicate, the ability to create, the ability to find or produce an environment that supports your prosperity. All of these abilities are as much a part of you as the hair that sprouts from under your skin. And you don't have to go out looking for these abilities. You brought them along with you. So you ask, well, Brian is saying all this. Why am I not already prosperous? That's a good question. If prosperity is part of our natural makeup, if it's imbued in everyone before they are born, we should all be prosperous, shouldn't we? By this same reasoning, all cultivated land should be overflowing with rich crops, but it's not. The natural prosperity of the soil can be thwarted by withholding water or nutrients or allowing weeds and pests to intervene. Just as farmers can sabotage their crops, people can sabotage their prosperity. Even though prosperity is natural, it's short-circuited, impeded, stopped in a plethora of ways. We all know this, but we don't always know why. Given that prosperity is our birthright, why would we not want to enjoy and increase it? Why would we want to produce every enjoyable condition in our lives? Good health, nurturing friendships, happy marriages. I don't pretend to know what motivates people at the deepest levels, but it doesn't take a degree in psychology to observe that many people believe themselves unworthy of prosperity. Many others consider prosperity to be evil. Some are actually afraid of prosperity, believing that if they increase what they have, they will lose their friends, incur the jealousy of their relatives and coworkers, and doom their soul to eternal purgatory. I know there are people listening to me now that will make comments that money is the root of all evil, that prosperity is the root of all evil, and that talking about prosperity is misguided and service to self. The reason I know that is because that happens every time I have an episode on prosperity. So if you're not already prosperous, any or all of these explanations could apply to you, and you may have to get to the root of them before you're able to fully open yourself to the prosperity you naturally deserve. How you go about doing that is beyond the scope of this short episode. Here and now, it's enough for you to know that if prosperity has been eluding you, it's not because you don't have the right, the means, or the ability to achieve it. All of that has been with you from the day you drew your first breath. If you're a farmer, it would be pointless for you to throw the seeds onto hard, dry ground and then sit and wait for results. If you did that, you'd be a poor farmer. Yet, that's exactly how most people approach their efforts at achieving prosperity through reality creation techniques. A lot of people, they buy lottery tickets, they gamble on horse races or football games, they scramble madly to make money before they know how to handle it, manage it, enjoy it, or keep it. In the financial sense, they're poor farmers. No wonder they produce poor financial crops. If you don't have the right prosperity consciousness, if you haven't properly prepared your financial soil and money comes to you as in a winning ticket or inheritance, you'll soon lose the money or find that it makes you miserable. On the other hand, if you develop your prosperity consciousness, it will produce a condition that creates abundance in your life. And the most exciting part is that it matters little what specific things you do to create that abundance. You can work or play or dance or sing. You can study or not. You can put out a little effort or a lot. It doesn't matter. The degree of your prosperity depends more on the state of your consciousness, the fertile nature of the soil, than it does on the specific action you take. So we know that prosperity doesn't come from money. We know that prosperity consciousness, the right means and ability to produce prosperity, is an inborn part of you. And to become prosperous, you must develop your prosperity consciousness, just as a farmer develops its soil. And once you develop your consciousness properly, prosperity will come, and it will hardly matter what you actually do to get it. So the question is, do you really want prosperity? Even though prosperity consciousness is a natural part of you, even though you were born to be prosperous, your prosperity won't come to you automatically. If you want prosperity, you cannot wait for it to happen. You must create it. And before you can create it, you must truly, earnestly want it. Your desire must be clear. It must be intense. The clearer and more intense your desire, the more likely you are to make it real. To know if you genuinely want prosperity, you need a complete mental picture of it. Then you must see yourself in that picture. If you can't imagine what prosperity is like, and if you can't imagine yourself experiencing it, your chances of creating it are small. What does prosperity look like? Well, if you regularly watch episodes of Cribs or Real Housewives or Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous on television, you might think that prosperity consists of sitting around on yachts, sipping tall drinks, or jetting off to Cannes for the film festival, or popping over to Rodeo Drive in Beverly Hills for a facial and a massage. While few live that way, the truth is most prosperous people work, cook, raise their families, take care of their homes, and do all the things everybody else does. The difference is they do them at a different level of consciousness. If you search on YouTube, you can find a seminar conducted by Marshall Thurber, a man who had become a millionaire while he was quite young. And he would say, "People are constantly asking me what it feels like to be a millionaire. Well, I'll show you right now." Now, watching this seminar, you might get excited because everybody wants to know that feeling. He would say, "Sit back in your chair and close your eyes. Now take a deep breath and let it out," he said. "There, that's what it is to be a millionaire. That's what it feels like." People, of course, laugh. Being rich doesn't feel any different from anything else. He went on to tell the story of what happened the day he first realized his personal net worth totaled over $1 million. I went downstairs to breakfast and my wife said, "Marshall, take out the garbage." I thought, wait a minute, I'm a millionaire. Millionaires shouldn't have to take out the garbage. Nevertheless, the garbage needed to be taken out, and since there was no one else there to do it, he did it. The garbage, he explained, taught him the best lesson he could have learned. Being rich doesn't exempt you from dealing with all the little things you must deal with in life. When your prosperity consciousness changes, in many aspects your life will stay the same. You'll still have the same problems to solve. You'll still get stuck in traffic. You still have good days and bad days. In short, you will still be human. But in many more important ways, your life will be dramatically different. You'll live in a neighborhood that's better maintained and more attractive than the one you live in now. The homes might be larger. If you live in an apartment, the building will be more tastefully decorated, and the front door will more likely to be attended. You'll drive to work in a car that's newer and runs more reliably than your current one. If you don't drive to work, maybe you'll have a personal driver or an Uber rather than taking the bus or the train. You'll dress differently. Your clothes will cost more, look better, and last longer. You might get your hair done, although I wouldn't know about that. And because you'll be in a more prominent position, you'll probably keep it groomed more carefully. In your free time, you may be doing many of the same things you do now, but with different people. When you're prosperous, you won't have as much in common with people you spend time with now. You want to do it with people who look, dress, and act more like you do. You'll spend a lot of time thinking about money. Of course, you may do that already, but when you're prosperous, you have a lot of money to deal with, so you won't have to focus on making ends meet. As Johnny Carson said, the thing money gives you is the freedom of not worrying about money. Instead of worrying, you'll be reading financial journals, considering investments, talking to advisors, generally trying to preserve, protect, and increase your assets. Prosperity involves a lot more than money, so the non-financial aspects of a prosperous life are much more different. When you become completely prosperous, you'll put an end to relationships that don't support and nurture you. You'll distance yourself from the people in your life who've been draining you emotionally. You'll become closer to those who practice the prosperity principle of give and take. It may bother you to lose touch with people you've known for a long time that will judge you for your prosperity. Bree Seeley talks about that in my interview with her, that people became angered by her prosperity. But once you see how much they have been taking from you, you'll realize that losing those relationships are not costing you. In fact, it's paying off. Prosperous, nurturing people are more fun to be around. When you're prosperous, you'll waste less time on useless activities. Maybe you'll watch a little bit less TV reruns, and maybe you won't read the tabloids. You'll view life as being full of valuable opportunities and fascinating information. You'll soon grow impatient with things that give you little or no value. When you're prosperous, you'll be healthier. Knowing you're a person of high worth, you'll be drawn to foods, exercise, and health habits that enhance your worth. Now, this is not a 100% accurate picture of prosperity. This is me giving you a general idea that it's not what you think, and a better idea of how it might go for you. Does it sound radically different from the life you're living now? Every opportunity to increase your wealth has a price. Maybe more people will be talking to you, and you might have to do more speaking events, whatever it is related to your prosperity. There's going to be some ultimate effect by it. I meet people that enter a prosperity mindset, they have some success, and then they leave that prosperity mindset. So part of this is learning how to create permanent prosperity. Mike Hernacki says, the secret to permanent prosperity is to be prosperous, you must deliver value and accept value in return. To be permanently prosperous, you must continue delivering and accepting value for the rest of your life. That's it. That's the secret. It is an ongoing, continuous process. You must look at prosperity as becoming permanent, not a situational thing where you're paying your rent next month. This is a continuous thing. It's a part of the large sums of money mindset. Money comes to you easily and quickly on a continuous basis. That's the key. The continuous basis, the continuing prosperity is what we are aiming for. So if it's money that you want, you must create value for people, because only people can give you money. If you grow beans, what you really want is money, then you must find people who value beans. When you deliver beans to such people, they appreciate the beans' value, they'll give you money in return. It's that simple. You can create value by doing your job exceptionally well. You're not just paid to be there, you're paid to do something. You are literally surrounded by opportunities to create value. These golden opportunities are everywhere, and they're popping up all the time. To become prosperous, you must keep your eyes open for them and take advantage when they come along. But don't make the mistake of keeping your accomplishments a secret. When you do create value, make sure it's noticed, not by bragging or selfishly clamoring for attention, but by making sure the message gets to people who are in a position to return value to you. It's that simple. It's not complicated. If you want to live successfully, just becoming prosperous isn't enough. You have to make it permanent as a part of your life, part of your everyday life. You're not achieving something in a single moment. It is a continuing process. That is the key. You can really do a lot for yourself if you talk to people that are prosperous. If you meet somebody that's prosperous, conduct a little research on your own. When you encounter someone whom you consider prosperous, ask them if they came to it by choice rather than by luck or accident. Keep asking people until you feel you've gotten a representative sampling. I predict that overwhelmingly they'll say it was a matter of choice. Few, if any, will say they lucked into their prosperous circumstances. On the other hand, ask people who are not prosperous if they reached that point by choice. What did they do? I predict many of them will attribute their situation to something outside of themselves. They'll say they had bad luck, they didn't know the right people, they grew up in a poor household, they had a disadvantaged background, they'll have a lack of opportunity. They will be convinced that external forces control them, and they'll argue vehemently, this is not my fault. And then they will feel sorry for themselves. When I hear that, I don't necessarily disagree, but I know that they're in that poverty mindset, because if you are in a world where you easily can find reasons outside of yourself for the situation that you're in, because we can always do that. The outside world is always a cause and effect machine. Denying your own internal power, you are saying that you don't have the power to change it. Life has dealt you with some bad hands. That's fine. Let's forget about the past. Right now, this minute, if your prosperity is built around your past, it will never be your own, just a product of your environment. Here's the point. Prosperity is a matter of choice. It always has been. If you haven't recognized it before, that's regrettable. You've missed a lot. People have become prosperous coming from the worst possible situations, and people have found poverty coming from the best possible situations. People have lost everything when very rich, and people have gained everything when very poor. It's all about their consciousness of prosperity. That is the key. So you've been raising your prosperity consciousness. You've come to fully understand the secret that you provide value. And you know the path that you've chosen is going to be different than what you've been doing. You are ready to begin. What is the first step? The first step is all mental. It's not physical. There's no physical movement required. Whatever you get in life, you have to create. Whether it's a job or an education or a relationship or a business. You can't wait for anyone to give it to you, for help to come along. If you've just been hanging around marking time, hoping that something magical will happen for you, accept reality. You have to make your own reality. You have to make your own breaks. The essence of prosperity is abundance, and we've learned that. And the essence of abundance is creation. You must create in order to prosper. And you don't create by waiting around for something to happen. You create by reaching down inside yourself and finding something that has value, something you can deliver to people that will serve them in some way. The second step then is to create value out of what you know, or what you can do, or what you are. If you don't know anything that can be of value to people, you can learn. Value can be created in any place, in any town, no matter what. It can be created in any way. It can be created in any economic environment. There are examples throughout history. I could spend entire episodes on this. How do we continue to develop and acquire this prosperity consciousness? Donald Curtis, one of my very favorite New Thought authors, said that feeling must come first. If you actually feel rich, if you have a deep inner conviction that you will always have all that you need, it will be so. You may remember what I said earlier, that most people equate prosperity with money because it's easy to measure. For the same reason, I'm going to suggest that in the beginning you focus on developing your prosperity consciousness as a way of building your material wealth, rather than other kinds of abundance. Not that non-material things aren't just as important. In fact, many are more so. It's just that with money, you'll see the results more easily and dramatically. You'll learn the lessons of prosperity more quickly, and you'll more readily apply them to the non-material aspects of your life. Whenever you're making a change, it's better to choose the path that holds the highest potential for success. Because if you succeed early and often, you immediately begin reinforcing your new success pattern. You get a good, fast start, and a good start can be half the journey. That being said, let's go back to something we learned earlier, that prosperity and money are not the same thing. Prosperity can include money and usually involves money, but it does not automatically result when money appears, and so many lottery winners have already learned. Therefore, it's pointless for you to try to create prosperity in your life simply by making more money. Money is outside yourself. Prosperity is within. Money comes from other people. Prosperity comes from you. Develop your prosperity consciousness and money will come in abundance. Turn your soil, aerate it, fertilize it, water it, plant seeds, tend your garden, and the crops will come in abundance. Rather than trying to create prosperity by making more money, do what you need to do to become more prosperous within yourself. If you've never experienced prosperity, you probably don't know what it feels like. Even though you're born with prosperity consciousness, you may not recognize it within yourself. So the first thing that comes to mind that I've talked about in several episodes on the podcast is modeling. Modeling is quite magical. It's a technique that was developed in neuro-linguistic program. You can model prosperous people, and you can understand very fine things like patterns, habits, rituals, even ways of speech that will help you to develop your prosperity consciousness. People have done this forever. Athletes and dancers have looked to other athletes or dancers to learn the secrets and ways, techniques that they use to become masterful at their field. All you need is to find somebody that is prosperous that you know of, and you need to model them. You can use this to develop your prosperity consciousness, no matter at what level you now find yourself. Start by choosing an appropriate model or models. Observe people closely. You can watch YouTube videos, especially those who have an air of prosperity about them. In other words, people who seem to be operating at the level you aspire to. What is it about them that looks prosperous? How do they act and speak? What kind of attitude do they project? How do they dress? How do they take care of their hair, complexion, fingernails, makeup? Are their clothes clean and pressed? Are their shoes shined? At work, find an excuse to go to the floor or section where the executives work. Notice how the people there keep their desks, meeting rooms, and conference areas. For the most part, are the workspaces cleaner, more organized? Do the desktops of the highest ranking people give you the impression of calm, control, and self-assurance? The feeling that these people know what they're doing. Visit a prosperous looking area in your town. Remember, it doesn't have to be a neighborhood in which the people make a lot of money. As we've seen, you can be prosperous even when you don't have a lot of money. Notice the way the people who live there take care of things. Notice the lawns, the shrubs, the flowers, how they're maintained. Do you see paint peeling or shutters falling off? Is there garbage spilling out of the trash cans or strewn all over the sidewalk? Why is it when I go to a poor neighborhood, it's the little things I notice? The way that food is just thrown on the ground or the dust in the air. Once you've thoroughly observed and analyzed the appearance and activities of prosperous people, look at these elements in yourself and compare. Be honest. Make the changes to model yourself after them. Is your haircut washed, styled, or is it flying off in several directions? Is it similar to those prosperous people? Look at your hands, your fingernails. Look at your house, your clothes, whatever it is. Look around your work area. Is it similar to those prosperous people? Go through this exercise for the place you live, for the car you drive, for every aspect of your life. Look at as many prosperous people as you can and model their habits, behaviors, activities, and ways of speech. I do believe that if you can dress for success, if you have a nice change of clothes, At least once a week, walk around in something super luxurious or deluxe to give you that feeling. Now, for me personally, wearing my t-shirt and shorts is a sign of prosperity because I don't have to work. I have worked in a job where I wear a tie and a suit every day, and my idea of prosperity was to not have to wear those things. So when I wake up in my pajamas and walk downstairs to my office, I am in a state of prosperity. That's for me because I'm modeling people that I find to be prosperous, that are free to do what they want when they want. Some people are not at that level of consciousness, and it helps them to change their level of consciousness by dressing up. As Napoleon Hill explains in his book on the laws of success, to change your clothes will change your life. We can't do an episode on prosperity consciousness without discussing giving, but you have to give before you can get. It's a part of the consciousness of prosperity. If you feel you cannot give, you don't have prosperity. Because if you're prosperous, you have an abundance of the things you have in life. You are able to give them away without worry or concern. So you must create value and then be in a position of abundance to give. This can be more than just giving money, but it is a state of mind. Giving is a state of mind. So you have to give in order to get. If you give, just do it. No strings attached. Don't do it just for some magical way of receiving money. It is a part of your consciousness. But do it with conviction that you'll one day in some way get back much more. Do it, and you'll have a life of ever-growing, ever-expanding prosperity. I can't entirely prove this to you. I can give you many examples of people who have used this principle successfully, but I can promise you, as you sow, so shall you reap. In modern times, what goes around comes around. Those who deny the validity of what you give is what you get will always learn the lesson in the harshest of ways. But when you look at really prosperous people, they are givers. You can give. You must add this to your mindset in order for you to acquire the prosperity consciousness. One thing that happens when you gain some level of prosperity is the idea that in your mind you say, I'm going to lose this. It's going to go away. I have found in particular with alcoholics or addicts, there's this mentality that it's too good to be true syndrome. And this is something I have suffered with and I'm still suffering with. If you continually in a process are in a state or consciousness of prosperity, it will never go away because it is always coming from within you and not without. You are the source of your supply. It cannot go away as long as you're doing the things I'm talking about. Modeling, acting in a conscious, prosperous way. It doesn't go away. Accept who you are and accept that this is your consciousness. When people suffer major financial setbacks, it's because they lost touch with their prosperity consciousness. Why and how they happen to suffer the loss will vary greatly. But if you were to talk to them, you would discover that at some point they lost that consciousness of prosperity. That's what I have found. Now, some of you out there, you might even hate prosperity. This is a shocking thing. But I find there is a small number of people that literally hate prosperity. There might be some part of you that's afraid of lounging on the beach. Can you imagine a more boring life than just lounging aimlessly on an isolated strip of sand for months at a time? That is not prosperity. And so you've created images in your mind of what prosperity would be. Making money is not an end in itself. Check out my episode, It's Only Money. Having money is not necessarily enjoyable, and being wealthy can be miserable. If money made people happy, every rich person would be ecstatic. And we know that's not so. But I will say most rich people are happy. But there are definitely people that are rich that are not happy. The truth is, anything that puts distance between you and what you really want has the potential to make you unhappy. If it's important to you to spend time with your family and your new promotion keeps you away from the family, how much good has the promotion actually done? If you enjoy bowling with guys from the plant, your newly achieved affluence takes you out of their league. Did you lose more than you gained? So build prosperity out of experiences. Only experiences that contribute to your prosperity are those that leave you better off, healthier, happier, and more fulfilled. Continue to think in experiential terms and don't create a negative image of prosperity in your mind. Prosperity gives you the choice to do what you want. You are not stuck in any particular life. Now, one of the great writers of prosperity is Charles Fillmore, and I do plan on reading his book called Prosperity, which is just so amazingly good. And within it, there are some pretty amazing affirmations. Now, I go to affirmations here at the end because I believe that you can create a prosperity consciousness through the use of affirmation. It gives you something to do to change the thoughts that are in your mind. By giving yourself powerful affirmations on a regular basis, it's a reminder to correct your ways of thinking. As Charles Fillmore says, think prosperity, talk prosperity, not in general but in specific terms, not as something for the other fellow but as your very own right. Deny every appearance of failure, stand by your guns, and affirm supply, support, and success in the very face of question and doubt. Then give thanks for plenty in all your affairs, knowing for a certainty that your good is now being fulfilled in spirit, in mind, and manifestation. And so you can think prosperity by affirmation. If you're in those moments where you're doubting your prosperity, give yourself some key phrases that you can use. For instance, you can use Fillmore's affirmation, I have unbounded faith in the all-present spiritual substance, increasing and multiplying at my work. For those that are Christian, some people are triggered by using Christ in affirmations, but you can say, Jesus Christ is now here, raising me to his consciousness of the omnipresent, all-providing God substance, and my prosperity is assured. Ultimately, when you read books on prosperity consciousness, you are continually reminded that the source of your supply is God. And if you reaffirm this with affirmation, it helps you tap into your source, saying that God is the source of my substance, and I am a tributary of that stream, a channel of expression. Blessing the substance increases its flow. You can say that. You can understand that aspect. Everybody comes at this a little bit differently. But you can remember these things, that you can say, I am rich in mind and in manifestation. My favorite is the large sums of money affirmation, which is, I'm so happy and grateful now. Large sums of money come to me easily and quickly in increasing quantities from multiple sources on a continuous basis, in the best interest of all, with the free will of all, that I get to keep, give, spend, invest, and circulate joyfully. Everybody should have their own affirmation or a set of affirmations that you rely upon. You can say it while you're riding your bike, while you're driving your car, while you're going for a walk, in those off times, to give that extra bit of momentum to your thought processes, to give you that prosperity mindset. You are a channel of the divine source, and you are thus the source of your supply. And by using the power of your words and invocation, you can create a prosperity consciousness. So prosperity is not just about money. Prosperity is a mindset that comes from within. And if you can tune into this prosperity using different methods and techniques, you can create a wonderful life. Having a lot of money doesn't mean that you'll be prosperous. You can create this prosperity on a daily basis by a process of thinking and believing, by tuning in and modeling other prosperous people and providing value to others. And in doing so, you will have the most wonderfully prosperous and abundant life. There are still a variety of additional ways that you can acquire prosperity consciousness that we have talked about on the channel. And to review, you can do guided meditations on prosperity, and you will have an amazing ability to start to access this prosperity consciousness. I have found through deep sleep meditations and different varieties of programming from meditation, I have been able to cultivate a prosperity consciousness. Another important step to cultivate and activate prosperity consciousness is become addicted to feeling good. Feel good. Begin to resonate with that feeling of prosperity. And that feeling is a feeling of joy, of bliss, of just feeling good. Staying in that vibration. The feeling is the secret. The third is just have an attitude of gratitude all the time. Just be grateful for all the blessings that you've had. That is a part of the feeling of prosperity, is being grateful. Develop that attitude. Keep a journal. Continuously remind yourself. Express gratitude for what you desire. Prosperity is a way of being. Contemplate who you need to be, what beliefs, intentions, and habits you need to practice and integrate. Deliberately and consciously practice them daily to integrate them into your neurology until it becomes your dominant way of being. You must find clarity. Take time every day and continue to get clarity on your vision, your whys, you're feeling it, giving thanks for having it. Use visual images, use vision boards, video vision boards. Create slideshows or Pinterest boards filled with images of what prosperity will look like in your life and business. Cultivate the images that you can get. Go through different magazines, prosperity journals and magazines. There's some amazing stuff out there. And imagine yourself in these places, doing the activities, playing golf, jet skiing, going on that cruise, skiing, whatever it is. Do those activities. Interact with whom you would love to, and most importantly, feel the feelings that make it real to your subconscious mind. Daydream, driving that Lamborghini. There is nothing wrong with imagining luxury and wealth. It is your duty to be prosperous, and it is your duty to do that, to enter into all states and be aware of them. That is what you're doing, is you're tasting these states, and this state is important to you and understanding it. Feel the feelings of it. Create daily rituals that you can follow for yourself on a regular basis that are designed around your definition of prosperity, which you have clarified and you have thought about and you have visualized and you have contemplated and you have been grateful for and you have been guided through meditation with. All those things work together. All of it flows together. Every single bit of information. Make it your focus, make it your guide, make it your underlying primary intention in life to reach this prosperity. It is your duty to do this. You can do this. The means are there if you understand what it is that you are trying to do. If you can define and understand prosperity for what it truly is, that is around experiences, joys, happiness, and service given, value added. That's where true prosperity comes from. It's about what you give, not what you get. You can find all episodes of The Reality Revolution at therealityrevolution.com. I am imagining prosperity consciousness, not just money, but prosperity consciousness for everyone that's listening now. Be sure to check out the Prosperity Revolution playlist on the channel, where I've gathered some of the most amazing teachings from New Thought and other circles on prosperity and manifesting money. You deserve to have a wealthy life, and now is the time for you to manifest it in your life. Welcome to the Reality Revolution.